guys, it's Ty with Ty the Dog Guy on the Daily, and I want to talk just an experience I had. It was a training client from years and years and years ago, probably about 6, 7 years ago. It was brought to my memory again today, and it kind of displays a very important concept, and so I thought I'd tell the story here. So this was a client years ago. It was a husband, wife, no kids, and they had a dog, and the dog was a big time chewer, chewing expensive stuff, leather, cell phones, TV remotes, nothing cheap, just top shelf type stuff. Husband and wife, they both went to work every day, and the dog, they couldn't leave him in a crate because he would just break out of crates. And so they found themselves in a very tough position. And I remember with where they were in their life, they only had time to do a couple sessions with me because they were moving back east in, I want to say 3-4 weeks. And so it only left enough time to do a couple sessions. So anyways, big time chewer. I go over to the house. The dog's loose in the house all day, chewing up big time stuff. And so I go through and we kind of go through this big, I give him a big list of, here's what I want you to do. I want you to set him up, try to sneak a peek on him while he's chewing and try to correct him with the e-collar. Make sure that he's got plenty of good toys to chew on. I want you to, create what's called a surrogate you through a toy. That's something I can talk about another day. Anyways, I give them all these things to do. And then the last thing I give him to do is make sure to take him on a focused walk. Now, they had been walking him every day, 30 to 45 minutes, but he pulled. He'd pull on a leash. And so we worked and we taught him how to walk properly on leash in that session. And I said, okay, also included in this is make sure that you're walking him 30 to 45 minutes, but not just walking him focused, where he's right next to your side. Okay, so we do that session. I come back a few weeks later. They're getting ready to move. There's boxes everywhere. And I say, how'd you do on this list, guys? And they sheepishly were like, we didn't really do much of the list. And I was like, no, you guys were super motivated. He's destroying big time stuff. He's costing you thousands of dollars in destroyed items and things like that. Okay. All right, did you do any of the list? And they're like, yes, we did do one thing. We walked him every day for 45 minutes, just like you said, and had him walk focused. And I said, okay, good. Well, that's a good thing. All right, well, tell me about the destruction. What do we need to work on? And they're like, oh, no, he's not chewing anymore. And so to me, when you look at the scientific method, what's the scientific method? You change one variable, you measure the results, and then you go from there, right? And so that's exactly what happened, because in their time, I gave them a bunch of stuff to do, which they thought they'd have time for. They didn't. And they only had time to keep doing what they were doing. Only they changed how they were doing it to where he walked properly. And in changing just that one variable, he stopped chewing. Now, why? Why would he stop chewing when because we're talking about the difference of 6 to 8 inches, meaning he was walking up here, and then we taught him to walk properly by walking right by their side. And so how does that 6 to 8 inches, 12 inches, whatever, how does that make such a difference and get him to stop chewing? And here's a little side note. These are great folks, and they moved back east, and they actually moved back here to Utah a few years later, which was a few years ago. And he reached out and said, hey, I got a couple other things I want to work on, and he hired me for a couple more sessions. And I asked him about the chewing. He said, no, the dog to this day doesn't chew anymore. It hasn't been an issue. And so it was a long-term solution, and it was one little thing that created it. And so like I said, the question is why? Why would that one thing create such big, impactful results? He was already walking every day. Why does walking here versus walking up here make a difference? And the reason why is it was engaging his brain. When he was walking before, there was no mental engagement. He was just pulling on a leash. He wasn't paying attention. There was no mental engagement. There was no leadership engagement. There was none of that. And so by him walking further back, mentally he had to engage, which does a couple things. Number one, it creates tiredness. It creates a dog that's more fulfilled and more tired. And so that was a big deal for this guy because he was chewing and being destructive because he had all this extra energy. Now, with the same distance walking, he had less energy because his mind was involved. And so that was important. And number two, that mental engagement created some really good relationship. And dogs that are very respectful are much less likely to chew your stuff. It just is. They start to see the world more as things that my mom and dad own versus things that are here for me to chew on. And so anyways, to this day, I call that the collateral effect. Meaning, we do something right here, but collaterally it affects everything else, when we're not doing it. So that 30 to 45 minutes of walking affected when he was alone, affected, all sorts of other stuff. So bear that in mind for a lot of stuff that you guys do with your dogs.